The Joyce Davidson Show. Today, astrology.
No year would be complete without an astrological forecast. Will the rain in Spain fall mainly on the plain? Will Geminis make peace with Virgos? Will Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis remarry? And what's with you? Well, in a minute, famous astrologer Robin Armstrong stargazes and forecasts. We'll be right back. Today, Robin Armstrong is not really going to talk about Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis because we've just decided we're much more interested in you out there, than in whether or not she'll remarry. Whether or not you're going to remarry is more important. Can astrology really help you pick a roommate, buy a house, or win at the stock market?
Definitely, definitely.
You really believe that?
It's more than a belief. I know it.
Because, you know, a lot of people, a lot of scientists have said that the one thing that can definitely be called an opiate of the masses is astrology, and they've said it's bunk.
Astrology is the mother of all sciences, and science is simply the prodigal son. And I've spent several years trying to prove it to people with closed minds, or scientists with closed minds, and to me, I've stopped trying to do that because if someone is ignorant and doesn't look, you know, anyone who's taken the time to look, and not in Del Horoscope magazine or in a specific column that's based on necessarily just sun signs, there is a very scientific level and a very mystical level, both in the same field. I look at basically astrology as a language, and there's people going around swearing in any language. There's people that are using it with a moderate bias, scientific or mystical.
There are a lot of real quacks in this business, and they write in newspapers every day. And there are some people that really believe in it, and sometimes I think it's harmful.
That's true. That's true. There's so many different levels and ways of approaching astrology. Most people find it from a newspaper column or from something like this on TV. And it's just a first level. It's a first touching. There's some validity in every level of astrology if the person knows what they're doing.
So you don't have to be considered a weirdo, a strangey, if you really believe in it.
Oh, not at all. In fact, most people that have been astrologers for very long end up being very conservative because they're tuned into the rhythms of nature, the rhythms of just life around us. And as you tune into them, you get a little bit more respectful of them and are prepared to live in your proper rhythms rather than jumping all over the place.
There's one basic fact that you learn in grade school, and that is that the moon actually does control the tides. Mm-hmm. And you suddenly start thinking, well, if the moon controls the tides, the sun controls the seasons, then why can't it have some relationship to me, just another living thing on this planet?
Right.
I'm not a true believer, but I don't know enough about it.
To me, it's so obvious that when it's hot, we dress cool. When it's cold, we dress warm. We're so intricately interwoven with the world and the universe around us that nothing can happen in the space on the planets that doesn't affect us, right down from earthquakes to sunspots to human character traits to certain fulfilling potentials. It's just all part of a magnificent symphony.
Robin,
yes.
How are the various sun signs going to be affected this year? Now, you want to answer certain things.
Right. Well, in dealing with this, you take each planet has a specific focus. And for a show like this, I would take 4 major planets. Jupiter, the planet of opportunity. Where it is, it tells you where your opportunities are knocking and where the greatest area for expansion is. Saturn, the planet of restriction, of responsibility, of maturity, of traditionally called the Grim Reaper. So we all have problems working somewhere, but you have to work them through and it comes positive. Then Uranus is another planet that we use, and Uranus is where the greatest excitement is, the most dynamic change in your life. It can be very disruptive if you're holding on to the status quo. If you're trying to fight change, you can really be disrupted by it. But usually it is sudden change for better or worse, whatever. And Neptune, which is the planet of mysticism, of confusion, and it's where you're most likely to be deceived or confused. So
That's the one hanging over my head these days.
It's hanging over it very well.
Everybody. Okay, we begin. The first sign of the zodiac
is Aries from about March 20th, 21st to April 20th, 21st.
Yes.
And Aries is really in a very pleasant year. There's a very romantic air, a lot of easy activity. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of inspiration, and there's a steady development of career potentials, of just about anything. There's no major crises or obstacles. They occurred over the past couple of years. Most of the forging has been done, and right now Aries is looking forward to a very, I would say, almost fun and entertaining year. The most confusing area would be around in-laws. There's very likely to be a lot of traveling, or a fair amount of traveling. The most exciting or most stimulating area, the area where there's the most amount of change, would be in the area of investments and finance, of group investments.
Good or bad?
Either way, sudden changes. This is like in joint financial ventures. It's not just in your private bank account, it's like working with your husband's account or working in a business venture. That's where the greatest amount of change would come. And sudden change.
I'm an Aries, and I have never had good luck working with my husband's account. So.
Well, it doesn't have to be the husband. It can be any partner. It can be any group situation where the group situation has more responsibilities than just the individual one. So it's in a social, financial endeavors.
Okay.
That would be really moving fast.
That's the bad.
Well, it's neither bad nor good. It's sudden and it's changing.
Mm-hmm.
The most serious area, perhaps the problem area, I don't think it would be that difficult. I think it would be maturely handled. I think the Aryan impulses have been put under very steady control, and the romantic side of things, the creative releasing of things, will come out very steadily, maturely, and will lead to a very productive year for Aries. Also, Jupiter going into Gemini will loosen up the flow and allow for a lot more traveling, a lot more communications, probably a lot more than has been said for a long time.
I'm communicating as fast as I can. Okay, now we go on. Are you finished with Aries?
Yes, that's Aries.
Okay, Taurus, the bull.
Taurus the bull. The Taurus goes from about April 21st to about May 22nd. And Taurus is going into a very difficult year, most of you are already feeling it already for about 6 or 7 months now, probably most of 76 and through 77. First, there's a lot of nervous upheavals. 76 was a great year. It was a nervously upsetting one that sort of upset the stability, but it brought in good changes that opened up new horizons and let you go into new adventures, maybe a new home, went on a trip, something like this. But if you didn't, then it was just a fairly relaxing year, 76, and you blew one of the best opportunities in front of you. However, if you just stayed in your shell, you're still feeling this tremendous uneasiness and nervousness about being insecure about yourself. It's a natural thing. It's going to be around for a while. You've got to get used to it. It's forcing you to change. Your independence will be a little bit problematic, and you'll be having to listen to others and see what others are doing rather than what you want yourself. Is the main thing. Now,
but you wouldn't think of a Taurian being insecure. I always think of them going right through and making money. And
well, Taurians are treading on thin ice. In terms of a lifetime, they probably feel most at odds with their own individuality or their own sense of freedom than they ever will. And on top of that, they've got a tremendous amount of work. Work is the only way you get through it. Okay. You just hold your nose to the grindstone and keep going.
We move on to the next problem.
Okay.
We have 12 of these.
Yes, right.
So.
Gemini is from May 22nd, 23rd, up to June 22nd, 23rd, 21st, 22nd. Geminis are probably in for their best year in 12. Jupiter's going into Gemini. It's opening new fields, new horizons. It's a good time for great new starts. Opportunity is knocking. It's just depending what you're looking for. The one problem that will come in is that there'll be too much opportunity, and you'll have trouble knowing exactly which opportunity is the real one for you, because you'll have so many. Regular problem with Gemini, but this time especially, very likely you throw yourself into a marriage. It's a very possible time because there's this very romantic area.
Is it true that Geminis are usually unfaithful? Or more likely to be?
The two-sided nature of Geminis is that Geminis relate to freedom. They're the greatest individuals in the zodiac. As long as they're free to do something, all is well. But as soon as they have to, as soon as you expect them to be somewhere, they won't be there because they're not free to. Why should I come if I'm not free to? So the minute they have to do something, That's the other side, they won't be there. As
So-
long as they're free to, everything, all is well. And this is a very free-flowing time. It's ultra-romantic and obvious, I think a little bit off base. It's hard, you can't see the forest for the trees in a way. There's too many opportunities going on, but it will be a very rewarding year. It should be a most rewarding year ahead.
Okay, so if you have a Gemini, let him go, or her go. The next one.
Cancer is in a comfortable type year. Cancer runs from June 21st to July 21st. Now, Cancer has been put through a real forging process like Aries over the past couple of years and has come out of it through 1976. Pretty well defined as to where they stand with their world. The business things, they've defined their goals very strongly and they're starting to set out on them. But this year there's no major upheavals or crises. Now, Cancers have a tremendous imagination. So the Cancerian imagination will, if anything comes up, usually it will be an exaggeration, over-magnifying a small thing, because this year is pretty comfortable. I would tend to say somewhat uneventful, but it will follow through on the goal, on the things that have been defined over the past year, because the past 2 years for Cancer has been a defining process that wouldn't occur again in 30. So they really are working on their main goals. They know what they want, they're going for it, and most of the decisions are made.
Okay, we have a decision made here. It's called a commercial. We'll be right back with maybe your sun sign.